companies like Disney and Nintendo might have a cutesy, family friendly image, but in reality, as a business, as corporations, they have some pretty heinous business practices. Hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about, well, a few things here. Very recently, I did a video where I was talking about the right to repair and how basically when you agree to the terms and conditions about something, you are saying, you agree to the terms and conditions, and because you don't really own the product, you're essentially renting it. Especially if it's something like a video game, but this is even true for, unfortunately, the digital software that runs like tractors and stuff on farms. You don't have the right to repair it or right to change it or whatever, and they can make updates and change things however they want because they own the product. You're really just renting it. But a recent story has come out about this that kind of made me want to discuss this a little bit further, and more specifically the issue of the whole terms and conditions aspect of it. So let's get into it. Also, I really hate this. TikTok is insisting on automatically playing this video anytime I click on the tab. Like it's really pissing me off, but we'll work with it.
Well, it turns out you can't sue Disney for anything if you pay for their subscription services. This is the craziest thing. So, there's this man named Jeffrey Piccolo, and he's suing Disney after his wife died from a meal she ate at Disney World last year. So, she had severe nut and dairy allergies, and the staff at an Irish pub on Disney's premises had said that her order was safe, and it clearly wasn't.
Yikes.
So, now her husband Jeffrey recently filed a lawsuit. But here's the thing. Disney is trying to claim that he can't sue them because he signed up for a Disney Plus trial membership in 2019.
What does it have to do with anything?
That's what I said. But apparently, the fine print when you sign up says any disputes with Disney must be resolved through arbitration, not in court. So Disney can't sue. You can't sue Disney for anything,
But
essentially.
that means as Disney as a whole and not just Disney Plus?
Well, it gets worse. So Jeffrey also bought tickets to Epcot through their website, and they claim that the terms and conditions there would also nullify the lawsuit.
Gosh.
So they have fine print in their ticket sales, they have fine print in their subscription services.
Yikes.
But there is kind of a little bit of good news as far as Jeffrey and his wife are concerned. His lawyers are calling this whole thing absurd and say that even if those agreements are universally binding for Jeffrey, they wouldn't extend to his wife because he's the one who paid. So since she didn't buy the Disney tickets, she didn't pay for the Disney Plus subscription service, there may be some kind of resolve. Unfortunately, she still lost her life, but there may be some resolve for her husband because there's like a workaround with it. But either way, there's going to be a case hearing on October 2nd. So we're not going to know much more until then. But it just goes to show, I guess, read the fine print.
Well, this makes me think of all those terms and conditions that we just scroll through and hit accept, because what all's written in there?
I know.
That we don't know. Like, what are we signing on for?
I think like 98% of us just like scroll till we get to the bottom and click
Absolutely.
accept. So I don't know if this is just like a little bit of a lesson to be careful what you're accepting, but also I just hope that some kind of resolve happens for them because it's a sad story.
That's wild.
So we'll see what happens, but that's tea time today.
Okay, so the first thing I want to point out, yes, I do think the delivery of that was very much staged, but the actual story, unfortunately, is real. Companies intentionally make this wall of text for their terms and conditions, terms of service, when doing things like signing up for Disney Plus, signing up for Netflix, signing up for any of these things, or in this case, even just buying a ticket online. They make these walls of text because, as that woman just said, I think most people just scroll to the bottom and click, yeah, I read the terms even though I didn't. Of course, that's the point. The point is that these companies, these organizations can pack this stuff with whatever they want, and you have to agree. Because it's not like you can not agree and still get to use the product. No, in order to use the product at all, you have to say, I agree. So if Disney basically is saying, you can't sue us if anything happens and you use our product, what the hell is that? Now, I have heard people say, there's no way this can hold up in the court of law, and very likely it can't. But it goes to show how, yes, like this woman was just saying, read the fine print,
Well,
which
turns
again,
out
the point is not to read the fine print. But I want to talk about this kind of about Disney and these companies in general, because there's this, obviously Disney has this very family-friendly, squeaky clean image, and we see, we see people go crazy anytime there's like a gay or a black person put in a Disney property, and Disney, of course, tries to act like they're all inclusive when these kind of things happen. And yes, it is inclusive and the representation matters and is good, but it's also a way for them to cover up some of the more horrendous things they're doing behind the scenes. This got me thinking because a friend of mine sent this to our group chat, and I was just talking about how Disney and Nintendo are evil in general. To which he was asking, well, what did those companies do? Like, what's so bad about that? So let's take a little roll through memory lane here. First, we have Disney ban's grieving father from having Spider-Man on son's grave. So basically, the story here is there was a kid who loved Spider-Man. He was his favorite superhero. Good taste, kid. Relatable. And I mean, you see, he even has a Spider-Man little action figure with him as he's sick with I'm not entirely sure what he had, but some horrific illness. And the father, knowing that his son loved Spider-Man and everything, made him a gravestone that looked like this. Ollie Jones, that's his son's name. The most precious gift we could ask for, your beaming smile will stay in our hearts and minds forever. Love you and miss you every day, our special hero. With an image of Spider-Man. Now, I will say, I recognize this image. This image is used in a lot of promotional work for Spider-Man, and technically, Disney does own this image. This image was used, like I said, for a lot of different things. Most famously, it was used for the PlayStation, Dreamcast, and Nintendo 64 Spider-Man game, simply just called Spider-Man, or as most people colloquially call it, Spider-Man PS1. But because of this, because of using this image, Disney sued. They said they didn't want to have their characters associated with death. First of all, to say that and use Spider-Man as an example when there are literally stories of the character like visiting a camp. There's a very famous story from the comic which had been adapted in the '94 series and in that fan film Spider-Man Lotus, where he, meets with a kid who has cancer and is dying and shares his life of Spider-Man with him essentially. I'm paraphrasing here, but like Spider-Man, even in that instance, was not being associated with death, and he wasn't being associated with death here. He was being associated as a symbol of for the kid because it was something that he loved. And a way that they have to remember him. I'm sure this father, whenever he would see Spider-Man in any media, and might still do even now, thinks of his son. And that's a really sweet thought. But the fact that, Spider-Man was on the gravestone, oh no, Disney had a huge issue with it. Does it say anything about Spider-Man? Does it say anything about Disney? No. It just uses Spider-Man image because the kid loved Spider-Man. But Disney, being the horrific company that they are, couldn't stand for it. But it's not just Disney. we also have companies like Nintendo. One of the most recent and heinous examples of Nintendo is they are suing this man, Gary Bowser, and for $14 million. Basically, he has to pay for the rest of his life. Now, what was his crime? He was basically hacking Switches and, from my understanding, selling them. Now, I want to be clear. Essentially, he was, downloading and installing ROMs illegally onto the Switch. He was then sued for $14.5 million after being arrested, which obviously is not intended for him to actually pay back. The point is for him to be in financial destitution because of this for the rest of his life. Now, I want to be clear. I am pro-piracy. I'll just be upfront about that. I don't have an issue with piracy at all, especially when it comes to emulation. I think this level of piracy is a bit odd because I think that it's... So one thing I'll say real quick on piracy is piracy doesn't actually hurt companies, mainly because people that are wanting to pirate are not people who were going to buy the product. They're people who were maybe tacitly interested in, but weren't really going to buy it, weren't interested enough to buy it, but were interested enough to pirate it for free. That is essentially how piracy works. With that in mind, I do think that if piracy or fan games, which we'll get to in a moment, I do think if those things happen, that shouldn't be made for selling. I think that is when it becomes an issue. Like, if you're gonna pirate games or something, movies, whatever, that's fine, but please put it out there free for people to download, watch, whatever it is, because otherwise you are running into some legal issues, and also, what the hell are you doing? like that is actually, there is no what's the point? You're just as bad as the company at that point. Now, this PR statement from Nintendo here, it's the purchase of video games that sustains Nintendo, and it's the games that make people smile. It's for that reason that we will do all we can to prevent games or on Nintendo systems from being stolen. Yeah, to make people smile. There we go. To make people smile. Yeah, ergo, it's how we make our money, so we gotta shut you down, bro. That's really, really what it is, right? Now, again, now here's one of the things I wanted to say, right? Even if I wasn't pro-piracy, the punishment needs to fit the crime. Making someone pay $14.5 million for the rest of their life because they pirated some video games? Seriously? That's insane. That's extremely draconian, and I imagine it's to send a message. I wouldn't be surprised if the Spider-Man thing with Disney was a similar thing. But as far as Nintendo goes, it doesn't just stop with hacking their consoles, like the Nintendo Switch. Which, by the way, I do just want to say briefly, I am completely pro-fan game, pro-emulation, pro-mods, all of those different things. Now, Nintendo, excuse me, there was a game that this person, Inferno Plus, made, where, I'm going to turn off the captions here. It's a Mario Battle Royale, right? They say, I turned Mario into Battle Royale. You're welcome to check out the full video. This is no longer playable because this was a fan game using Nintendo's intellectual property, and because of that, they shut it down. They are very strict with... Oh, did I not show it? My bad. Here, sorry. yeah, this is the game, and it was shut down because it was using Nintendo's intellectual property, which they are very strict with. And it's annoying enough that they destroyed this game after this all of this guy's hard work. I mean, look, he shows you his coding process, he shows you all these different things, playing the game, testing it. He made this game. He made this battle royale version of the first Super Mario Bros. Game. But Nintendo couldn't have that. However, what's funny is that when they shut down the game, the fan game, which was for free, they also released Super Mario Bros. 35. Now, let me know if you see anything similar here. By the way, Nintendo used to also have extremely strict mentalities on things like, what is it called? Let's Plays, video game reviews. Anytime you used their content, well, they thought that they deserved, some of the profit because you're using their product, regardless of the fact that you're giving them free publicity. And many of these playthroughs, or let's plays and reviews and stuff are of games that aren't even on the market anymore. That doesn't matter. It's Nintendo's intellectual property, so that's all that matters. It's absolutely asinine. So the way that this game works is, granted, these are a little bit different. Here you have where you can see after figures, if you will, of or images of different Marios, where you're all essentially playing the same levels together. And once this got shut down and Super Mario Bros. 35 was released as part of the Mario 35 anniversary, this game, which although doesn't look quite the same, is very similar in that you are essentially playing the Mario games, or the first Mario game with other people. Now, of course, it's a little bit fancier, it's all these different things, but it's a very similar concept to the fan game. But here's my thing. I think this is different enough to stand on its own, for one. And for another, it was a fan game for free. Why did Nintendo have to go and ruin everybody's fun? And again, it doesn't stop there. In 2020, at the height of COVID, people were using, I don't remember what the program was called, but they were using some online play system to play Smash Bros. Games, and I think other Nintendo games as well, using the Dolphin emulator. For those that don't know, the Dolphin emulator could run Wii games and GameCube games. Well, Nintendo shut that down as well. Because it's their property and they can do what they want. Now, I understand they're within their legal rights and all that bullshit, but who gives a fuck, dude? You aren't doing anything with it. And holy shit, you want to talk about shitty business practices and the height of COVID? This is in connection to Mario 35 as well. They released a package of games called the Super Mario 3D Collection, where it was Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. Now, I want you to notice all of these images that you see here are what the games looked like. This isn't a remake. This is an upscaled HD widescreen rendition of these games that you might as well play on a fucking emulator for free. What are they do the laziest shit. They put this stuff for full price, and to make matters worse, it was a limited release that was only available from September 18th of 2020 to March 31st of 2021. So, artificial scarcity as well. Absolutely asinine business practices. Absolutely horrific. And again, doesn't stop there. Going back to fan games, there was a fan project of the video game Metroid 2, which was only ever originally released on the original Game Boy. It was black and white, all these different things, right? There was a fan game called AM2R, another Metroid 2 remake. Again, this was a free fan game that basically just took the concept of Metroid 2 and kind of made it as if it were more like Super Metroid or Metroid Zero Mission. Well, Nintendo didn't like that. They DCMA'd this product as well, and now, and then released their own Metroid 2 remake. Now, again, I understand they're within their legal rights and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the heinous just how evil this is and anti-consumer this is in general. Now, looking at these two, AM2R and Metroid Samus Returns, that's what the official game was called, they're clearly very different games. Now, this isn't like the same screenshot or anything. They're just two screenshots I found where Samus happened to be like pointing up, shooting at an enemy, so I wanted to use them both to kind of, compare and contrast here. But why can't this exist along with this? I'll tell you why. Because Nintendo is a greedy, money-hungry corporation that, just like Disney, while they claim to care about family and kids, and they claim to care about, the integrity of their product and all these different things, they just care about the money. They don't want their brand being sullied or any bullshit like that, just like Disney. And these issues just keep occurring. Now, looking back at again, the like Mario 3D All-Stars or Super Mario 3D Collection, that is not how you do a remake. Crash N. Sane Trilogy, Spyro Reignited, those are the gold standards. That is how you do remakes. This is this footage is from I cannot pronounce this, Lechu con Amigos, we're gonna go with. So thank you, Lechu, for recording this footage. We're gonna go ahead and turn off the audio. You can see side by side here of the cutscene comparison. On the left, you have the remake. On the right, you have the original. Oh, here, let me go ahead and... oh my god, I keep forgetting to actually flip back to the thing. My bad. Okay, let me show that again real quick. Lechu con Amigos, that is the person that did this. And here, let me... there we go. So on the left here, we have the original... or sorry, the remake, and on the right, we have the original. You can see, yes, the cutscene is different, right? It looks a lot more, high def, all these different things. This is how you do a remake. And this isn't really in service to the broader point here. I just want to use this as an example to show what a remake should be, as opposed to the laziness that Nintendo put out. Just to kind of compare and contrast these two. This is how you do a remake. And similar to how Nintendo nor Disney understands how to treat fan projects or things of that nature, and how they don't understand how to handle remakes, we have a company that kind of does and kind of doesn't. Sega and Sonic Team, when it comes to fan projects, they are, for the time being, completely supportive of people making fan products. So much so to the point that the person and later the team, Christian Whitehead and Headcanon, who made Sonic the Hedgehog before the sequel and Sonic the Hedgehog after the sequel, were brought on board to later make Sonic Mania, one of the best Sonic games in years. Personally, not my favorite, haven't played it yet, I'll get around to it someday, but many people love it in the Sonic community, and it's pretty widely regarded as just very, important in general. Now, on this same note, while Sega and Sonic Team is good about this, they aren't good about... They are very obsessed with brand synergy, which is also an issue with specifically the MCU, Disney and the MCU. They're also very obsessed with brand synergy. So when it comes to adaptations, or even in the case of the MCU, the mainline comics, there's so much you can't do now because they don't want it to conflict with the MCU brand. It's asinine. And with Sega and Sonic Team, for the praise that I gave them, they also will not... they're very stringent on how Sonic is depicted. He always has to be like the hero that saves the day. This is something the IDW comics are really struggling with when it comes to Sonic. But even in regards to that, one of the fans of the Archie comics, Ian Flynn, was brought on to write the write the Archie Sonic comics later in his life, and then continued to write IDW, and even wrote the English version for the Sonic Frontiers video game, the dialogue and things of that nature. So, there are ways that Sega has handled this well, but again, that obsession with brand synergy is just insane. But that is not exactly the point of this video. That's just a little rant I wanted to go on in general regarding all of that. The point is, these companies, and it's true for Sonic Team and Sega and Naughty Dog and all these things too. Sega has done incredibly horrific, using that word a lot lately, horrific, union busting and things of that nature. Sega's no angel either, don't get me wrong. And don't be fooled. Just because Sega is supportive of Sonic fan games does not mean they're supportive of fan games in general for a lot of their other properties. If they wanted to, they could pull the plug on all the fan projects, and they are technically within their legal right to do so. These companies are not your friends. Disney might hide behind Mickey Mouse, Nintendo might hide behind Mario, and although he's my favorite fictional character, Sega might hide behind Sonic, but none of these companies are your friends. They are companies that their first and only concern is making a profit, and you are just wallets in their eyes. You are dollar signs. You are, I guess in Nintendo and Sega's case, you are yen signs. You are just there to make them money. That's what you're the consumer. That's what we are. We're the consumer. So don't be fooled when Disney hides behind Mickey or their wokeness or whatever it is. Oh, we have this gay person, this trans person, this whatever minority. Oh, aren't we so inclusive? Aren't we so great? Okay, yeah, sure, that's great. But what about these horrible business practices? What about this? What about that? All these. Well, but we have this. Yeah, okay, cool. So, these companies are not your friends. Brand loyalty is something that has never really made sense to me. But especially when it comes to things like this, they might have these cute mascots and everything. They might have these mascots that seem cool and all that, and you might like their products. I love a lot of Nintendo's products, but I hate them as a company. I like a fair amount of Disney's products, but I hate them as a company. I really only like Sonic from Sega. I know they do make a lot of other stuff. I've dabbled in a few of the other things, but as a company, they're still a company. They are not your friend. Their job is to make a profit at your literal expense. That's the point. So just don't be fooled by these companies, and be aware, and if you can, hold them to account. Hold Disney and these other companies to account when they do things that story we started with of the guy that lost his wife because of essentially negligence, when they asked not the chef, but the waiter or the waitress, whoever it was, and many people involved throughout the process of making the food, making sure it didn't have the allergies or allergens that would have affected her, and yet it did. And an allergy, having an allergic reaction to something isn't always just being itchy or getting bumps or a rash or something. Sometimes it's as dangerous as making your throat close up and preventing you from being able to breathe, which is what happened in that case. These companies should not be able to get away with this stuff. But because we love their products, and I'm guilty of this too, because we love their products, we often let them. And I don't know exactly what can be done about it, but I just want to call attention to, again, these companies are not your friends. Don't be fooled by Mario, Mickey Mouse, or Sonic the Hedgehog. We might love these characters, I know I certainly do, But these companies are not your friends. They don't care about you. And they will throw you under the bus if it means protecting their IP, their assets, their brand. They're a company, not your friend. As always, though, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media. Subscribe, ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.